Alright, hey everybody, it's the end of the month of May right now. It's getting warmer, and it's time to stay inside and talk about video games. And these are the video games that I picked up this month. It's a cool, really fun-looking mix of games, actually. So without any further ado, let's get into it and talk about this controller from RetroBit that I got just last week as we started carrying them at work. This is called the RetroBit Controller. They should be around $30, I think. And they come in jungle green, which they call forest green, red, and like glacier blue, which is this color. It's ice blue. For copyright reasons, not that I wouldn't think that there's much to worry about with those copyright names, but anyway, it's a copy of the HoriPad, which I actually was using just this past week to play Mario Party with. And so when I got it, I could say, really, this is a great feeling controller. It's got a great stick on it. I prefer the D-pad on the real HoriPad just slightly, but it doesn't really matter because I would never use this for D-pad heavy games like the wrestling games and stuff like that anyway. It should just be used as a secondary, like, set of buttons anyway. Jesus Christ. The start button is not a very tiny piece of rubber. It's like a regular size button made of plastic. And the one big thing that I do like about it is the Z triggers here, which you can see I got my controller pack in it as well. But the Z triggers, there's two of them. They're both back buttons, and they're larger. All four shoulder buttons are larger, and these Z ones are especially large, and they're contoured, which is really nice. It's a really good feeling controller. So I've got now this one, which is really nice, really good to play with, and I've got the legit one too. And they are fantastic controllers. I can't say enough good things about either the originals or these now. I suggest getting one if you want to play 64 games at all, to have that option. They're great. I'm going to go with a batch of cool, really cool mid-range, except for this front one, but mid-range like PS1 games here. This is Rugrats Studio Tour, which it does not seem very exciting at all. However, if you ever played Search for Reptar, which everybody seems to love, including me, this is kind of more of the same. It doesn't get as much fanfare because it wasn't the first Rugrats game, so it's not like everyone ran out and bought it. But it's, it is what it is. I haven't really played it yet, but it's, more of what they did in Search for Reptar, which is, to me, is a fun game, and I'm looking forward to actually trying some of this stuff too. But it won't be clouded by a lot of nostalgia, of course. I've never played this before. So I think that's why people don't care about it, is if they didn't play it, then they wouldn't care about it now. Future Cop. Meet the cop that can't be stopped. It's the only thing that I can think of when I look at the cover of this game. Future Cop LAPD, which is a sort of like Ed 209 from RoboCop, running around, shooting, blowing things up. Published by EA, which is weird. You don't really expect to give them a lot of credit, and this is kind of a curveball from them at the time. But we get asked for this all the time at work, and it seems to be really, really popular and really good gem for the PS1. There's a nice clean copy of it that I'm glad to have now. It always looked interesting to me, but I never really bothered to pick it up because people were into it enough that I didn't really want to take it like one for myself because I wouldn't remember it. It wasn't a nostalgia thing with me. But I did manage to get my hands on a good, nice copy of it. So I'm excited about that. Another game that I never really bothered to pick up before, also because it's very expensive, but I managed to get this on Declutter actually for like $20. Very excited to have it just in my collection, because it's another game that I basically, I'll tell you at work, I hear the same thing all the time. It's always this game, and I know when it's coming. People ask for stuff that they played on demos. They ask for Tomba, because Tomba had a particular demo disc, and not a lot of people actually went out and bought it, but they played the demo. And so they ask for Tomba, and they're very surprised at the price, which has gone down a bit recently, but they're still surprised about it. And I always hear about this. People are so convinced that this game may not even exist, because it's so weird and it's so, like, surreal and dreamlike that they're convinced that they might have just dreamed it, and like, nobody's ever heard of this game. Nobody else played it. I already know what's coming. It's Intelligent Qube. And then they go, I'm not even sure if it's a real game that I played. No, it's Intelligent Qube. It's fine. I'm sorry we never get it in because nobody actually went out and bought the fucking thing because they only played it on a demo. But here we are, we have Intelligent Qube. It's on the PS1 Classic. So that's a good way to play it. If you can say anything positive about the PS1 Classic, that's one thing. Intelligent Qube is on it. And I don't think that's making people buy it, even at $40, which is less than this game usually costs, or about the same. But yeah, I'm glad I have Intelligent Qube. It's the kind of thing that I'd be really interested in if it wasn't usually so expensive, so I'm really glad I picked it up at a good price. And then finally, a game that I think divides people a lot, and I haven't really played it at all, so I have no idea what this particular one is going to be like going into it. But Blaster Master Blasting Again on the PS1, published by Qube, so that might be a red flag right there. Qube eating up those 80s licenses to publish weird, not half-assed, three-quarter-assed 3D versions of them. But this game has actually been increasing in price a little bit, maybe just because of the name and license, but I really like Blaster Master. I'm not very good at it, especially the older ones, but this is a good one to have, I think. So I've got that. That's PS1 games. We got 2 DS games, 2 very different DS games, actually. One staple that sold millions of copies, and one that I probably won't ever play, but I got it, again, on Declutter for really cheap. I pretty much just jumped on it. I was like, if I ever play it, I might as well get this better plus version. So first of all, New Super Mario Brothers. I just never picked it up because I'd played a bunch of them before, but this is the DS one, the absolute unbelievable bestseller. I think it sold somewhere in the realm of like 16 million copies. And I haven't played it before, so it's on my list for sure. But so is New Super Mario Bros. U, which I haven't actually played. I played Luigi, but not that one. And then Blue Dragon Plus. Blue Dragon as a 360 exclusive, or mostly a 360 exclusive, for consoles anyway, was actually one that I'd wanted to pick up for a long time. And I never convinced myself to do it because I was like, I will never play it. It's a long-ass RPG with 3 discs. But Blue Dragon Plus for like $6 or $7, I was like, you know what? It takes up less space. It's a little bit cooler to look at because it's on a Nintendo console and it says Plus and it's Ignition. Yeah, I'll pick it up. So I have that. I do have it. I don't have to worry about convincing myself to buy it on 360, which I'll probably never play. And then we do have some Switch games. 2 of them actually have there's kind of a common thread with these 2 ones here. These are games that I was interested in for a long time when they came out, but I could not convince myself to go and buy them until they were cheaper. And now they're cheaper. And I got Mario+Rabbids, which you can see I haven't opened yet. But I got Mario+Rabbids at Best Buy for $20 minus GCU, so I paid like $16 for it. A Mario game that's actually going down in price, yes. And if you haven't heard of it, it's basically like XCOM. It's like a strategy game. It's not at all what you would expect these 2 franchises would come together to create. It's supposed to be fantastic, but I could not allow myself to buy things with the Rabbids on them because I hate them so much for what they did to Rayman for so long. But I will play this eventually. It's supposed to be fantastic. I just never wanted to spend much money on it, especially it's a Ubisoft game, not really a Nintendo game. And then we've got Sushi Striker, Way of the Sushido. Again, it's under $20 now. If you go on Amazon, you can pick this up. I did not want to pay $50 or whatever, $40 I would have paid for it when it came out. Even as a new franchise and wanting to support it, it was clearly a 3DS game that they kind of passed on over to the Switch as well and increased the price another $10. I felt like I hate doing this, but I really thought that this looked like a $30 game and $40 game, as opposed to a $40 and $50 game. So now that it is cheaper, it's supposed to be excellent. So I really do want to play it, but I couldn't let myself spend the full price on a game that definitely was heavily inflated in the price because it was being put on the Switch. And 2 more Switch games. This one I've actually been playing, and I actually wanted to convince myself not to buy it. I wasn't going to buy it until I watched Cat Icarus play it, and I started hearing that not only was it supposed to be really good, which I totally believed it would be good because it is still Sumo Digital, who made the All-Stars games, which I absolutely love. Sonic Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed is one of the best kart racers I've ever played, probably the best kart racer not named Mario Kart, and I say that knowing full well that the reason I didn't want to buy this is because Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, whatever the fuck the subtitle is coming out next month, and I would have been like, it's two kart racers that aren't Mario Kart that are coming so close together, and Sonic cannot win against Crash Nitro Kart. But the mechanics of the game being team-focused is actually a really big focal point, and I really enjoyed it. And I bought it basically because I was like, can I expect something different than what I'm going to get out of the Crash game when I play it next month, and absolutely devour it. And so far I think I have gotten that. It's a pretty good kart racer, and it is something a little bit different than you'll get from most other kart racers because of those team mechanics. However, I wish it was still all of Sega and not just Sonic, because all of my favorite characters and tracks and everything from Sumo Digital's previous kart racers was not Sonic stuff. It was all the other stuff. So that was a bummer. And then finally, I forgot that this was even a thing that was coming out, because they put out Blade Strangers, Nicalis company that, like I've said, I love. I will buy most of the things that they put out. But so they announced Blade Strangers and Crystal Crisis around the same time, both of which have these sort of all-star-ish rosters based on other Nicalis stuff and, you know, characters that they could get. Not that there's a whole lot of them that I'd be really into, because they've got Isaac, they've got some other fighting game characters, they've got Cave Story. I don't really know most of the characters. Astro Boy is in this game, I know that. I don't even know if he's on the cover. Oh, here he is. He's at the top here. But a puzzle game looked really good, and the Nicalis can do cool stuff, and I like them. So I did pre-order this probably a year and a half ago. This has to be the last, unless Bayonetta 3 still counts, this has got to be the last Amazon pre-order discount I'm ever going to get, unless maybe Bayonetta 3. I haven't played it yet. I literally just got it yesterday, but it comes with this awesome... As you can see, it's a big box. I don't even care about the game right now. I love this little puzzle cube thing. It's not really like a puzzle like you do like a Rubik's Cube. It's like a little fidget cube thing. I'm not even going to bother taking it out because you may or may not have seen other stuff like it before. But I was just messing around with it yesterday. I was like, that's super cool. I love the little things that Nicalis puts in their stuff, and that's probably my favorite one that they've done so far. So anyway, that's it for Switch games. I just have 2 PSP games, which aren't terribly exciting. This one here, I have Monster Hunter Freedom 2. Getting a Monster Hunter game for, like $3, I think, on the system that really made it big originally, because I know the first PS2 one, nobody really seemed to care. And then the PSP, it kind of settled in and made its home on there. Excuse me. And then the third one came out on the Wii, and then it's kind of blown up since then. But these are supposed to be some really good ones. They have the weird controls, which is something I've always struggled with trying to get into Monster Hunter. But they are kind of PSP staples, and so I figured it would be good to add one to my collection. So I got Monster Hunter Freedom 2 there. And SOCOM, Fireteam Bravo 2. I've never played the SOCOM games, and I'm not usually a tactical group squad-based shooter fan. I just don't care enough about strategizing in shooters to factor that in. But I've heard so many good things about the SOCOM games that this one on PSP, I just wanted to get one on PSP and one on PS2, which I did as well. You'll see that later. And eventually I will try them out and see if I'm cut out for what's supposed to be a really good series that has a massive, massive fan base, and even people that are setting up private servers for the PS2 games now and playing them online, which is so awesome. I love hearing about stuff like that. It happens with Phantasy Star Online, but I'd never in 1,000 years thought that SOCOM would be a game that people are doing that with. But very, very cool, and I do want to give it a shot. I just have one Xbox One game. I got it at Five Below, which is... It's funny because getting a game at Five Below sounds like it might be a red flag that that's a terrible trash game. And historically, it has not been the case. I can tell you, I've probably got 4 or 5 games in my collection that I picked up at Five Below. I know I got an Earth Defense Force 2025. Great series. I've seen Star Fox Guard there, which made me want to cry. I've seen Call of Duty there. It was like Infinite Warfare. I was like, that's weird. And so, Surviving Mars. I saw Surviving Mars actually for both Xbox One and PS4, and why would I not get a PS4 one? Well, I'm probably not going to really play this game anyway. So just to add something into my Xbox One collection. It's not like Five Below gets stuff in stock for games that is just absolute shit, and they just funnel them all into Five Below. Assassin's Creed 3 on the Wii U. Weird one. Guitar Hero Live, which is garbage, but for $5. I'm sure it was a fun pickup. So Surviving Mars is a sim-type strategy game. Definitely reminds me of The Martian, if you ever read or watched that, where you sustain a colony on Mars. And I was like, oh, it's probably not a very good management game. Nope, looked it up. It's got amazing reviews. Clearly what it was is, like all the Five Below games, is they just seriously overestimated how many they needed. So they just liquidated them, and Five Below got their hands on them, and you can go into Five Below right now and pay $5 for this supposedly very, very good game that I myself probably won't ever play, but I'm glad to have it because it looks cool. And it adds a game to my Xbox One collection, which is not very numerous. I just have one PS3 game, but it's a game that I've always wanted to pick up because I've heard so many good things about it. It's you've probably seen it on a million like top 10 lists, licensed games that are actually good, and so on and so forth. And the story behind why that is really interesting to me with XMen Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition. Basically, if you've watched any of those videos or read any of those articles, like on What Culture or whatever, the idea is the movie got delayed. The movie took so much time in post-production that, or just in regular shooting, I don't even know. I've never seen the movie. I just know that there's a terrible Deadpool cameo that they retconned in Deadpool 2. So, X-Men Origins Wolverine, the game, is basically a God of War clone. And because they wanted to, this is my understanding of it, and this is what I've heard, because they wanted to release the game in conjunction with the movie, the game was done, but the movie wasn't done. So, the people that worked on it at Ravensoft, yeah. So you can trust Ravensoft anyway. But they had a lot of time to really just keep improving, keep touching it up, and make it into a really well done, nicely polished action game that is supposed to be really good. Better than the movie it's based on. And that goes for the 360 and PS3 versions. Not really. I don't really think it's true of the PS2, Wii, PSP versions. DS, probably a DS version too. It's probably on everything. It's Activision. But PS3 and 360 versions still go for actually decent money because it's supposed to be so good. And it's got a work on. I'm into that. And I like Wolverine. I just haven't seen a lot of the movies. This next thing is actually got to be my favorite thing that I picked up this month, except maybe the tribute, but this is so much cooler. You've seen me picking up the Game of Thrones games because I've been into Game of Thrones for literally like 3 months. And I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the ending. But I loved the series. It was great. And Eric Koch on Instagram, who runs several pages called Toysaurus, makes really, really good Genesis repros. And someone from the NHL 94 forums, which are still active and rampant and super awesome. You know all about the NHL 94 thing. People still love it. Just the way that they do with MVP 2005 and ESPN NFL 2K5. People are super into the games that do what they do the best. And so someone modded NHL 94 with this cool ROM hack that was based on Game of Thrones. And it has, it doesn't have 30 teams. It has 9 teams, plus a team of White Walkers, plus a team of NHL All-Stars to just throw those into the mix there. But you have 9 teams based on the 9 major houses, White Walkers, and you have just, it's a pretty simple hack, except for the fact that it's got all the like pictures and stuff. It's got all the logos and everything like that worked into it. It's very, very cool, and Eric made a very, very nice reproduction of it with this nice case with Ned Stark on the front, and you can see some of the screenshots. Some people are not on teams because they don't have houses to be a part of, but that's Sam Tarley right there. He's the announcer. I forget who the announcer in the original game is, but and it's got this nice silver cartridge. You can order this. You can also order a Mighty Ducks one from Eric Toysaurus on Instagram. If you just look him up, Toysaurus. He has Toysaurus Games and Toysaurus Toys, I assume. Whatever the fuck it is. I'm basically mostly in it for the games because he does all this Sega stuff and nobody really does Sega stuff. This is so cool. I've been playing it. It's so fun to do that. It keep adding these wrinkles to the NHL 94 legacy. It's awesome. And you can also go to the NHL 94 forum and just download that ROM if you want to as well from the Sauce. That's the guy's name. Anyway, moving on, we also have one Super Nintendo cartridge. This is the Jaleco Brawlers pack. If you know RetroBit, who did the Retribution controller as well, RetroBit has a bunch of licenses from the cool third-party developers back from the NES Super Nintendo era, including Data East, some from Capcom. Capcom, who did R-Type? I know Capcom didn't do R-Type, but wherever the hell it was, IREM. They have IREM and they also have Jaleco, and they make these combo cartridges, which are really cool. And this, to me, is the most interesting and easily the best value for me, was to get this Brawlers pack. And I already have Rival Turf. I have the original Rival Turf that has the two little kids on the front, like the two street punks. But that's the first in a trilogy of beat-em-ups that also includes Brawl Brothers and Peacekeepers, which are a lot more expensive than that one. And then it also has a fighting game called Tough Enough, the Jaleco made as well. No, it's Fighter Sister I'm thinking of. Never mind. I was going to say there's a second one, but no. And they make these nice, fancier looking cartridges, and they come with stickers and pins, which is really cool. Of course, playing up the Tough Enough thing. If you've never seen a copy of Tough Enough in the store, Tough Enough, not Tough Enough, Tough Enough. This is actually basically the front cover. This is literally the cover, the part that on the front label of the game is this right here. Hey punk, are you tough enough? Master the moves to master me. Awesome. Just eye-catching, and it's not a very good game, but the inclusion of it on this package is awesome. And then this sticker too. It won't play on my Retron 5. I wasn't really expecting it to. It will play on all RetroBit stuff, and of course on your original Super. And I've got my Retro Duo if I want to play, but it's just a good package. Because I like the type of games, and I like, Peacekeepers and Brawl Brothers are pretty expensive compared to Rival Turf, which is like a $10, $15 game that I do own. Anyway, that's it for cartridges too. 360 games. I'm mostly not buying 360 games for the most part, but there's a couple out there that I'll still pick up. One of which, of course, Dead to Rights, Retribution, not Reckoning. Reckoning's the PSP one. As I've been saying the past couple of months, I really do like this series, or I remembered liking the first game in the series, and it seems to have a big following too. It's Namco. It's not the type of thing that Namco seems like they would put out. But I've picked up the first one for GameCube, the PSP one, and now I've picked up the 360 PS3 one. I just need to get the second one, and then I need to actually play some of them, including revisiting the first one that I played when I was a kid, and just checking out all the other ones that seem to have a good following and seem to be pretty decent. This one, Battlestations Midway, comes strictly from the fact that Sabaton released probably one of their top 5 songs ever, Bismarck. Bismarck is so good. I can't stop listening to it. And it got me really wanting to play a sort of naval air warfare game, such as these ones. Battlestations Midway. I think there's also Battlestations Pacific. Unfortunately, not going to cover the Bismarck because Bismarck is in the Atlantic Theater. But the closest thing we're going to get to it is this. You've got planes, and there's also boats and shit. So yes, really cool stuff. Short of playing World of Warships, probably the best option I had for that, so I'm glad I kind of scratched that itch to get something like that. And then The Witcher 2, Assassin of Kings, with the fancy box set, the slipcover version and everything. I was really not going to take Witcher 3 very far when I played it. I pretty much knew that going into it. I'm not going to put 150 hours into a game. Are you insane? But my understanding is that they kind of grew into that from starting with the first one on PC and then into the second one until they got to the open style of game that they have now with Witcher 3 and all its expansions. So I thought I might try my hand at this. If not, it's a really, really nice package that I'm glad to have picked up. Got this great handbook in here. The slipcover. It's got the 2 discs and the soundtrack. Very, very nice. I really respect CD Projekt Red for the way that they make games. They are just so generous and so devoted to what they do. It's really, really cool. So definitely liked having this in my collection for sure. A couple of GameCube games. I'm still GameCube crazy, but not as crazy as I was last month as far as how many GameCube games I actually picked up. But I am still getting some stuff that I wouldn't buy on anything else, such as 4x4 Evo, arcadey off-road racing game, decent, you know. The first one was on Dreamcast, I believe, and then this one's on GameCube and Xbox. I don't even know if it's on PS2. It probably is. But yeah, I felt like as a Jeep owner, or a Fiat in a Jeep outfit owner, I like looking at like the off-road racing games and all the Jeeps and stuff. So yeah, that's one. Having it on GameCube is the only thing that really mattered to me. Same with this one. Dragon Ball Z Budokai, the first one. I like Dragon Ball Z. It's the only anime I've ever really watched any of. Not that I've watched any of it in 10 plus years. But the fighting games are always really good, the Budokai games. And so I picked this up. I think I had a disc only of the first one. And as the Budokai series especially continues to grow with all the characters, you kind of look at it and it's like there's no doubt that people would be super into that for fans of the series, which is a super long-running series and everything. I don't need all the characters. I just need who's in this. It's kind of like a wrestling game. Like, I love Fire Pro Wrestling for all the ridiculous, obscure people that it has in it, like Fire Pro Wrestling Returns, with its massive, massive roster. And I can go through and I like identifying all the people and seeing, how they've played around with them. That's kind of what Budokai Tenkaichi 3 does for people who really like Dragon Ball. I like this. It's kind of like you only need to buy WWF. I'll say WWF Attitude or even No Mercy. No Mercy's roster is pretty all killer, no filler. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Freestyle Metal X, another like supercross, motocross, whatever the fuck you call it, game for the GameCube that's supposed to be really good. The interesting thing to me about this game especially is that on the 3 platforms, PS2, GameCube, Xbox, it has 3 different covers, all of which look as insane as this, and I think that's really cool. They probably commissioned the artist who did the cover to do 3 different things, and then they went, you know what? He gave us 3 really good ideas. Let's use them all. Let's use them all. It's really cool. I like that. So go check out the Xbox and PS2 covers. They're all ridiculous. NBA Street Volume 3. It will never dethrone Volume 2 for the best of the series, however. On the GameCube, you get to play as Mario, Peach, and Luigi. They're the only 3 people on the team. They're all pretty homogenous in terms of stats and being really good. But just to have that, same as with SSX on Tour, which I might pick up eventually, they're also in that game. Amazing that they let EA Sports Big use them at all. So, and then finally, another basketball game. NBA Courtside 2002, probably not the best basketball game, even of its time, not to mention the entire GameCube. However, I have some allegiance to the Courtside series, having started on the 64, so that's the one that I felt like I had to have. One each for Wii and Xbox. Let's grab those first. Xbox, not the most exciting thing. There's so many mech games on the original Xbox, especially. Like the whole PS2 Xbox era has a lot of those on those two consoles, not so much on the GameCube. But like, there's so many on the Xbox, and the kind of the be-all end-all is just regular Mechassault in Mechassault 2. And I don't like mech games if they're going to be really intense simulations like you get from Steel Battalion or some other ones like Phantom Crash, those ones. But I heard that this is kind of like a car combat game in the sense it's very arcadey, and people love these two games, this one and the second one. So I did eventually want to try this and see if I could get into it. But I usually don't like mech games unless they're going to be like that. And then Wii, Pac-Man Party. God, it's like, I know this game's not supposed to be that great. It's probably better than Pac-Man Fever, but that's pretty low bar. I just like to pick these party-style games up because I've been raised on Mario Party, and I love that, so I love that type of game. For better or worse, whatever. And so a couple PS2 games, and another pair of not that exciting ones. Basically, both of these games are, as I already mentioned with SOCOM, they're very popular, and I wanted to get just the one of them. They're the kind of things that you just end up with for the most part, and that's kind of what's happened here. But I did want to just end up with the best of them, and so I looked up the best of this series and the best of this series. They both ended up being the second games in the best series. Seemed to be the best received, or the ones that I would like the best. I think there's a hockey minigame in this one, so of course I want that from ATV Offroad Fury 2. And I think this one's the best balance of being easy and being good from what people said on the PS2 one. So SOCOM 2 there to go with SOCOM Fireteam Bravo 2 on PSP. And then two very different games, especially from those two there. Fatal Frame 3. I have Fatal Frame 1 and 2 on the PS4? 3. I don't even remember which console I have them on, but I have them downloaded on PlayStation of some kind. But 3 I don't. And this one, I just basically completing the trilogy that I'm too scared to play anyway because they're fucking terrifying. They're the exact type of horror that scares me, which is that Japanese haunted house type horror. But it's cool. I will always want to pick it up on Wii U. I'll always want to play that. I'll always want to have it. Probably never play them because I'm just... that stuff specifically is like what gets me. And then on the other hand, you have Hungry Ghost. This is an import. A very, very cool looking import. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to actually play of this game, but it looked awesome. It's another horror game. I think it's got a little bit less of a serious tone to it. The title is just so amusing. And it's actually made by Deep Space, who made Extermination on the PS2 as well. Another type of survival horror game from the early PS2 run that has been getting a lot of traction lately as people talk about it, but nobody's really talking about this game because it's an import. So I would very much like to try this game. I've actually tried to bust out my Google Translate app on my phone just to kind of read the back of this, but it's not going to be very practical to do that while you're playing a game, so we'll see how it goes. And then lastly, the SNES Omnibus Part 2 was released. I still have to really, because I do read these books cover to cover like a nerd, I still have to do that with the first part of this, but I do have the second one, and this will cover such landmark, very, very, very important games such as Super Mario World. I forget if they put Link to the Past in the first one. But Mario World is in here. Star Fox, Street Fighter. Those are all just on the back. I'll flip to a random one, though, and we'll see what we get. You'll also get Super Star Wars. All the Super Star Wars games are going to be covered here. You'll get Tom and Jerry. That's not that exciting. UN Squadron, Uncharted Waters. Just, like, if you can't think of things off the top of your head, because I can't either, you'll get just cool stuff like that. And then you get stuff that, like Prehistoric Man, which is the tightest game from 1996, so it's probably absolute garbage, but I've never even heard of it. Operation Logic Bomb, great game. So that's the kind of stuff that's in this volume of the SNES Omnibus. And that's it for this month. There will be a very, very interesting batch of games to talk about next month because they are on the way here. And I'm very excited about them. I don't know what else I'm going to buy, but there's probably like 20 games. I think like 15, 20 games heading my way from across the world. And we'll talk about that next month. Awesome. Thank you. See you later.